Gentlemen, on behalf of Ramphaiphani Ratchapat University, we would like to welcome you to the 12th International Conference on Integration for Science and Technology for Sustainable Development 2024. My name is Ms. Ưamporn Rungsili, and I'm honored to be your host for today.
And I am Ms. Lorisudha Bunkrong. It's a pleasure to have you all this morning. We are thrilled to welcome distinguished guests, keynote speakers, researchers, and participants from all over the world. This conference promises to be a day of meaningful discussions from knowledge sharing and collaboration.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to invite our distinguished guests and speakers who have joined us today on the stage for this special moment. First, let me invite Assistant Professor Dr. Thesak Puramongkol, Dr. Hong Pham, Professor Dr. Teodoro Mendoza,
Professor Dr. Teodoro Mendoza from Philippines. Professor, please. Sir is going to talk about fruit trees in agro-ecosystem, the way to address food insecurity and climate change.
Hello. Hello. I hope you're still awake and awake. Yeah, my colleagues, fellow careerists in organic agriculture, I'm happy to be here in this conference. So allow me to start right away. The previous speakers have very nice presentation, and we are able to catch up with the time. We are 30 minutes late a while ago. Yeah, I selected this topic, the role of fruit trees in agro-ecosystem, the way to address food security and climate change. Dr. Kunumo has mentioned that, hey, we are behind in achieving the goals of sustainable development, and we need to increase food production to achieve food security, to arrest hunger. Well, climate change, whether you agree or disagree, is the greatest human existential threat, and at the same time, a threat to food security. We have massive flooding. Just for the last 2 months, about 5 strong typhoons passed the Philippines. Before that, we have drought. Okay, so we are experiencing this problem already. But if you are to feed the additional 1.5 billion people, or 9.7 billion by 2050, there shall be increases in greenhouse gas production, emissions, nitrogen, phosphorus pollution, biodiversity loss, so on and so forth. So that's the implication of if we want to, but you know, feeding such number of people has a consequence, especially with our current diet, where we need to produce, we are eating about 300 million tons of meat, killing 8 billion animals, producing or feeding the animals with 1.25 billion tons of grains, and devoting 70% of agricultural lands. That's about 3.5 billion hectares for pasture and feed. By 2050, if we follow that linear thought, we need to kill about 12 billion animals, 450 million tons of meat that we should be producing, and we will be feeding animals 1.875 billion grains that can feed, if we eat that, the caloric equivalent, it can feed 5.5 billion people. I'm showing you these people to just stretch your imagination. Yes, so climate change will have this interacting factor. Of course, we say that there is an climate crisis now, and it is brought about by deforestation. But you see, if you analyze, deforestation is due to the human diet. It's also inducing this problem, because we have to cultivate more lands, more open lands. So we have to clear up the forest in one case. But at the same time, when we do that, there is what we call biodiversity holocaust. More than 30% of our biodiversity has been already lost. And because of that, there is food insecurity. Yes, our meat-based diet is essentially propelling this agriculture, animal agriculture, deforestation, and that is precisely because of our meat-based diet. Because of this meat-centric food system, it is causing the most destructive human activity. And this animal agriculture is the one being pushed by agrochemical intensive feed grain agriculture. And you know, when we say crop agriculture, it is essentially nitrogen. 70% of all fertilizers that we are using to promote yield, to increase crop yield, is due to nitrogen. And nitrogen alone contributes 1.2 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. Yes, the humanity can't fix climate change without fixing the way we feed our world. Okay? If you examine all those data, but on this right side of this, or left side, you can see the 1.5 billion cows emit more greenhouse gases than the 1.74 billion vehicles. That the world's largest dairy farm of 20 million acres, 9 million hectares, 100,000 dairy cattle, whose carbon footprint is greater than Portugal, one country alone. Okay? So we cannot solve the same problem with the same thinking as when we created them. Doing the same thing again and again and expect a different result is the height of stupidity, according to Albert Einstein. So we now have to transition from a meat-based to plant-based diet to address the twin effects of a meat-based diet on food security as well as climate crisis. Of course, way back in 2023, I have this already published paper in the International Journal of Agricultural Technology. In that year also, last year, my paper was picked up by a columnist in our newspaper, and it stated that climate change is diet change. So I said diet change not only address climate crisis, but also the prognosis of food shortage. I know this is very difficult, but a careerist guy like me, a scientist like me, should stretch the imagination of people. Always we look only on the supply side. We do not look at the consumption side. Oh, that is not balanced. Okay? So when we say food security, food sufficiency, we should not only look at the production side, we should also look at the consumption side. Okay? Let's now look at our diet. Our diet is, on my diagnosis, it's a grain-centric, where 3 major annual crops, corn, wheat, and rice, supply 2/3 of our food value. The last 50 years, human diets became 37 more similar. And when we say food, they are essentially the food crops, annual crops. And we look at the way we eat, food biodiversity, which is so crucial for nutrition, health, and wellness. We have narrow food biodiversity. Okay? We have only 12 crops and 5 animal species, providing 75% of the world's energy intake. So, there is now global malnutrition, many health issues, poverty, and environmental degradation, which is a consequence of narrow food biodiversity, as explained by a UN biodiversity expert, Marietta Sakalian. Found out that the optimum food biodiversity is about 47 species, crops and animals per week. Minimum food diversity is 20 species per week. Well, I think we have a good food biodiversity in this conference. Last night alone, I counted more than food species in the dinner treat that was given to us. Fruit trees, a source of food biodiversity, they can take this role due to their perennial habits as compared with our annual crops. Why? Because fruit trees are perennials. After planting, they grow and bear fruits again and again without having to plant. So, what are the benefits? Less labor, no labor, so on and so forth. So there is this equation. Biodiversity is food security and fruit trees. It's not only eating enough calories, okay? But when we look at food security, the 3 A's, they are available, accessible, affordable, but we should also consider nutritional security. A while ago, the discussion on food safety by our friend, Dr. Tapio from Finland, they mentioned it. And we should also consider health and wellness. Food is our medicine, not medicine our food. When talk about fruit trees, there we have abundant fruit trees, 3,000 more or less fruit trees. And we have lots here in Thailand, okay? So, addressing climate change is, as I've said a while ago, is diet change. And when we say feeding the world and reforesting, because we have many deforested areas already, okay? More than 31% of our forests, regional forest areas are now devegetated. But we should not only concentrate on planting trees. We should include fruit trees. Why? 10 years after, wood trees will be cut for lumber, charcoal, etc. Because the people need money. Okay? But fruit trees, after 10 years, they're already at the height of fruiting, and they should, and they will not, cut the fruit trees. Okay? So, how to address the degraded soil? Then it's best to plant fruit trees. Okay? So, to have those nutritional and wellness benefits, so on and so forth. But on the other end, our intake of fruit trees is very low. It's only 0.13 kilogram per day, whereas we should at least eat about 51%. So if you follow that, 0.5 kilogram per day, considering the average 650 kilocalorie per fruit, then that may result to 16% less or additional energy. So fruits can replenish our rice, shall make us food self-sufficient in terms of food calories in the Philippines, if we are to do that. So fruits play a key role in maintaining our healthy diet. Fruits are good for our gut microbiomes, and we now realize that the fruits will has this microbiome are influencing brain development, function, and mental health. So with that, we are lucky that we have many fruits that are good for microbiome. Fruits have also many ecological benefits, and I tried calculating the benefits Fruit alone integrated in the agro-ecosystem could generate 6.21 billion tons of CO2 sequestration, about 27.6 billion tons CO2 per year, or a total of 33.81 billion tons of CO2 equivalent, comparing it with the emission last year, which is 53. I'm sorry to say, we have still increasing our CO2 emission when in fact we should be decreasing it. Okay? At least 64% yearly decrease in carbon dioxide sequestration. Well, many farmers are poor. You can increase total farm productivity and income with fruit trees. In the Philippines, I made some comparative gross income analysis between fruit trees and rice. With fruit trees like mangoes or avocado, we can increase the income 4 to 5 times, 5 to 6 times relative to corn. So when I tried to analyze the 17 SDG goals, fruit trees can contribute 11 of the 17 social development objectives, sustainable development objectives. Fruit trees are resource efficient, they're good for land restoration. Incidentally, there is no single R&D center or institute under the SIGGER umbrella pursuing research for fruit trees in the Philippines too. We don't have 65% of R&D funds here is for rice, and yet rice farmers are poor, and we import a lot of rice. Oh, there is only one country so far when I Google search. In Japan, they have this Fruit Tree and Tea Science Research Institute. Okay? So my synthesis and conclusion. Fruits addresses 2 challenges, the climate change and food sufficiency. Fruits can take a central role in food security. In addition to the many nutritional benefits, fruits can contribute 16% of food calorie intake. Carbon sequestration in fruit trees can reduce GHG emission by 64%. Fruit trees are resource efficient and provides many ecological benefits. Through food biodiversity, it can improve nutrition, health, and wellness. Many fruits are excellent feeders for gut microbes. Global R&D center or institute under SIGGER umbrella must be established for fruit trees. Fruit trees can contribute to several sustainable development goals. Thanks for listening. Have a fruitful and meaningful participation in this conference. Ted Mendoza.
Thank you, Professor. It was a great presentation. So would you like to give the certificate for your talk?